Hey there folks, and welcome to the next Grand Tour of 755 mile per hour Cup Tryouts. In this Tryouts I am doing the Dodge Viper Grade 4 as a Cup Racer. Kind of a bit of a choice there. So here's the parts and stuff that you can do to the Dodge Viper Grade 4, which yeah, as a V10, it's kind of weird to see the horsepower being as low as 255 horsepower. For a Cup Racer, that's all it technically wants at the end of the day, because the car is very streamlined, I will say. This car is very shocking on that matter. It's weighing 3,000 pounds, yet very, very speedy at the end of the day. It's going to be a big detriment towards its acceleration and stuff. However, fuel-wise, it's pretty good for the most part. But yeah, as the saying goes, as a race car, can't really tackle too much. But yeah, it's just kind of, I just thought I'd try something funny, which is try a V10 in the low horsepower form of this at the end of the day. As the saying goes, you come here often. Anyways, yeah, no wide body, no engine swap for this. Shockingly. You know, you kind of think you would stick the Hellcat Hemi in this yet, but they haven't done it yet. Because I will say there is some Grade 4s that do get engine swaps like that. Like example, I think the Grade 4 NSX does have something. For example, I think it's like the BSC or something like that. But yeah, as the saying goes, for rims you can't really tackle too much. If you try customs, you can shrink them a bit, but that's technically at best you get to do. As the saying goes, I guess race cars limit on the offset and stuff. I'm starting to realize anymore. There is a bonus feature you can do. You can change the headlight lens to yellow. That's technically about it. Otherwise, which makes me debate if I should put those yellow or not. Because this is the copperhead. This is the copperhead style I did for this one. But here is the tune-up, which I will say technically not much besides changing the camber angle because it kind of burns pretty rough in the front tires, shockingly. I don't even know what to say about that. I'm not even sure how it burns that much, but it does. Yeah, I'd say spoilers is the front to be all the way in the back, while the back somewhat in the front. As the thing goes. And then the gears arranged like this, so make sure to pause that in case you want to see that at the end of the day. No supercharger because it doesn't need that, nor I think it's too much for it at the end of the day. So if I recall, I think even by lowest, I think it was like 260 something horsepower, so I wasn't able to attach a supercharger if I want to. Would be nice for that acceleration boost, but that's about it. I would get out, but I say loosely too, because technically, when you're this slow, sometimes a turbocharger may not matter at all. I know some cars are very effective about that. But yeah, negative camber. Basically a lot lower in the front because it's going to burn a bit. And here is the copperhead version if you want that. Which I do have a regular red one too. You just have to part search me on there when you can. But the Dodge Viper Grade 4 is, well, I want to say technically non-existent. Like, this is technically a fictional car, so it's hard to say in terms of history about it at the end of the day, so who knows if this exists or not. But if there's anything I will say, the Dodge Viper in history of a different version of a Dodge Viper has participated in cup races. That was called the ACRX in 2011 or so here. So back then there was cup racing for the Dodge Viper. Other than say, there's technically not much to even really say about the Grade 4 version besides it existing. The one that actually does exist is the Viper GTS R or GTS 3 or yeah, it's something like that for a name. That is the one that does exist, or I think it's like GT3R. But yeah. Overall, the Viper Grade 4, who knows if this exists or not. If it does, wow. Because I will say this is one of the Vipers I think that can hit kind of the lowest in terms of horsepower because it is very engine limited compared to the actual production model if you want to be shocked on. I will say. I think of. Because by default, Dodge Vipers hit about like 480 horsepower, if I recall, and this is technically less. This is like 402 or something like that. It's not that crazy, for the most part, and that makes sense because what grade is participating in, which is grade 4, which grade 4 is like usually like a moderate cup racing, but a little bit higher at the end of the day. How to view grade 4, but you can make it a cup racer, which is technically what I did here, so this is the stats of making a cup racer, in case you want a Viper as a cup racer, which is funny because it hits only like 255 horsepower, which is what led to me to call it then the Copperhead, because if for those that don't know, Dodge was going to make another sports car roadster alongside the Dodge Viper, in case by production values it was too high. So the Dodge Copperhead was the other suggestion, which the Dodge Copperhead was going to have a V6, it was going to be like 255, and it looked like a squished up roadster at the end of it. Not gonna lie, but however, in Gran Turismo's history, it was the most famous car you'll ever see. I'll just say that. It was one of the most broken cars you'll ever see. Matter of fact, regular in the LM edition. Cause yeah, Gran Turismo did went out of their way to do the LM edition for that Copperhead too on top of it. Yeah, I might as well mention it here because who knows if we ever will see that Copperhead ever again. I would love to see it again, to be honest, but more power to them that they just keep it in the vault at the end though. Because not a lot of people know about that car in terms of history of nowadays. For those that, you know, Cumberv and, you know, those. Which is definitely a legend of a car, also. It's just by probably realistic standards, and here's the funny part, the Copperhead would have cost a whole lot more, apparently, by production costs and stuff. And that, and its looks wise, not a lot of people didn't really like the looks. Because it's a squished up front, and it's based off of an old style roadster too. If there's anything cool I did like about it was the brake lights in the back. So that was probably the cool part about the Copperhead. And also a lawsuit they were also dealing with on top of it. There was a lot of things that were bad about the Copperhead at the end of the day. So there was a band that was trying to, you know, license Copperhead, and they're trying to Dodge, or the Dodge is somewhat interfering on that name stances, so I should say. That's the best way to say it. So yeah, at the end of the day, that's why in Gran Turismo it was just called the concept car, because yeah, it's called the Dodge Copperhead concept car. So yeah, if you want to see more on that, make sure to probably check that on the weekly or something about that. But yeah, I'd just say that's the only thing that this car kind of shares is the Copperhead satin orange color, which is an orange color you can select too. So if you want a Dodge Viper in Copperhead orange, you can do that. Matter of fact, I think it's one of the offerings for the new, or I say new loosely, but the last of the GTS ones. But yeah, let's see here for best time here, and we get a minute 9.571, which is, not gonna lie, pretty slow, even in comparison to the M1 RS. The M1 RS did a 109.2. So, I will say, acceleration wise, that's technically good, but speed wise, not the greatest. So, in that case. So here's the stats of suggestion. I have what I think about the Dodge Viper at the end of the day, which yeah, acceleration 8 to 10 at 111 miles per hour on the Gr.4 climb. While during Tokyo Expressway, when we get there, you're gonna be noticing a big detriment there because the speed is kind of just low. It's like in terms of the, I mean, like I said, that's actually more of the acceleration that matter for that speed, but yeah, 136 is not the greatest for the most part. Turning, I think it's just fine. There's like no big issues and such. Now comes the weird thing about this Dodge Viper, because I recall the opponent being a butt, but this might be just more of a matter to the burn factors at the end of the day. Might be causing this to happen or something. But during the Iger Nordman test, the test I do there and such, which is like the equivalent of 7 or 8 laps there. The tires are almost bald by the time I get to the end of the race. It's like I want to say at least an eighth left of the tires by the time I get done with the race at the end. While the fuel is pretty good, on 2/3, I would say, the most part, when it comes to Iger Norman. So yeah, fuel-wise it's good, it's just tire burn, it's strangely front-heavy bad. I'm kind of shocked about this, to be honest. But then again, reminder, this is like the biggest V10 engine you could ever have, and then not only that, it weighs 3,000 pounds. So I know there was going to be a big detriment when it came to brewing this all together at the end of the day. So, in other words, I kind of knew this was not going to be the greatest, but might as well try and see what happens. You never know the wonders of something sometimes. But overall, what I kind of believe in the Dodge Viper, it's kind of just a rigged B at the end of the day. It's not bad, or it's not, commonly bad. It's just, I would say at a case balance, it's kind of just in a balance factor, because this would be kind of in the odds of a production car at the end of the day, of the same matter of pace. How I know this? The Mercedes Barker, for example. But yeah, overall, the Dodge Viper Gr.4 is not bad, but it's also just not great either. It hits that midline option of choices to say. So yeah, if anything, I would recommend the Viper Gr.4 as a 200 mile per hour beast instead of this. Because yeah, that's where it really shines. Here though, not so much, because acceleration's not a huge issue to deal with just yet. It's till you add more horsepower where it becomes a problem. Because while the Volkswagen kicks the crap out of it here, that measure becomes more of a detriment when we hit to the higher side of things, and that's what matters the most when it comes to tuning and stuff. Because yeah, that tells you on the far inside, yeah, you should keep this as a high tuned vehicle instead of a low tuned vehicle. But it is interesting to see the concept, happen, Because the other choice I was going to do the Nissan Silvia, but I felt too simple, felt too easy. If anything, I was going to do the Silvia later, which is going to be a good bit for that, I will say, for that part. But yeah, now onto the best lap when it comes to this car, which yeah, a mid-34, that's not technically the greatest for the most part, considering I know the Honda M1 does is it a whole second at this point? Oh yeah, it was like a whole second .2. So it's got a lot to climb, so hopefully this lap here is the one that would do it at the end of the day. But yeah, by the way, when it comes to this track, PTSD because of the stupid circuit experience when it came to dealing with this Viper Gr.4. There's one thing I remember about this Gr.4 car. I hated the circuit experience when it came to this car. It was a pain in the butt, as the thing goes. A real pain in the butt. That's rough. That's very rough for the most part. But yeah, other said, let's try to get this car to victory, shall we? We go down through the iconic corkscrew. So many drivers pass away on that corkscrew. I think that's sadly famous and also infamous about Lugano that corkscrew. That and how many people got effed up on Gran Turismo 2 when it came to that going down that. There's some people that got fucked up by that at the end of the day. Now onto the big old straightaway. Are we going to get a much faster time than the 134? I kind of hope so, to be honest. Yeah, 133.565. I think that's pretty good where it sits at. Not the greatest, but at least it's not a whole second back. That would be more concerned. But yeah, now onto Tokyo Expressway here. Such. But yeah, I'm probably just gonna say advance. This is gonna be very turtle slow for the most part. I think I kind of yawned to this when I was doing it. It's like, I mean, sure we can go faster than this, right? No, not really at all. Sadly. Where the Volkswagen Scirocco did like, what is it? Yeah, 145. Good luck on that. I'll just say that much when it comes to the Dodge Viper Gr.4. Because sadly, the acceleration just ain't all there. As a matter of fact. Oh, if anything, actually, you know what? I can't consider the acceleration 7 out of 10, actually. Yeah, I'll probably change that instead. Because, yeah, I do kind of consider, like, in the 8 out of 10 range, but then there's a case I kind of don't for this case. I don't know, it's very debatable. You can call it 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 for this matter. But yeah, as you can see, there's a straightaway here. Not technically the quickest about, I would say. It's kind of shocking. I hit like 134, 135. Yeah, at best reach I got was like 136 plus. So it's possible for 137 perhaps, but it's not really that noticeable for the most part. Everything goes, and then now go through the chicane here, or two-wheel chicane. Everything goes. One thing I love about this track here, because like I said, it has like the one iconic thing that came from Special Stage Route 11. It was that thing goes. Especially, it's funnier because way back then, when Gran Turismo 7 was going about on the updates and stuff, and when this track came to be and such, we got the what was that? The RCR Civic. That Civic had a problem back then where you weren't able to modify the roll cage. So as a result, if you hit that in the wrong way possible, you're flipping it because you weren't able to tune the roll cage at all. I will say nowadays, throughout the update stuff, you can do that and such. But back then, yeah, I do recall some. I do recall some moments when it came to the two-wheel chicane, as the thing goes. Yep, so now I just drive the Viper Gr.4 to victory, as the thing goes, in a very slow manner, because, yeah, like I said, a minute 48.521, he did not want to hit any higher on that such, I'll just say that much. It's very sluggish on the way there, which is kind of shocking, but yeah. So yeah, in safe terms, the Honda M1 will probably end up beating this at the end of it. If I had to say in a manner, which, you know, technically good, because I like to see some K cars beat some Gr.4s at the end there. I don't want all the K cars dead at the such. Yep, so now I'll go on to the two-wheel chicane here. Go around the last roundabout here. Like 105, 109. And we're hitting a minute 48.944. That was slower. Very good. Alright, let's see what the best lap can offer instead then. And from what I'm looking at, it doesn't look like the time really changed at all. I think it's still the minute 40. Yeah, it's still the minute 48.521. Good God. So, in case you want to know the times, the Volkswagen Scirocco did a minute 45.608. That is a huge difference. That is not a great sign of things to come. Matter of fact, it makes me kind of debate if it's even B to begin with. Maybe a C more matter. Because I will say, when it comes to that ranking, I'm not going to be factual on that. That's work in progress at the end of it. Especially, I don't know the real comparisons between these cars just yet. Until I get more of a understanding, then I'll probably re-rate these cars at the end of the day. But this is where I kind of, as a suggestion though, this is kind of where I think they hit, and not gonna lie, my suggestions are probably gonna be a bit bad. Considering the Honda M1 2+4 hit like a minute 46.2 here, it was that close to the Scirocco, because by speed the M1 was technically better somehow, for the most part. But the Viper Gr.4 just ain't having the same genes as that car at the end of the day, which is very shocking on the most part. But reminder that the Honda M1 also kind of burns their fuel a lot more for this, because while it is slow by longevity's case, it might be good for that case. So there's a possibility that the Viper Gr.4 could still be better than the Volkswagen Scirocco could. But I'm just gonna say, probably, I would say a 30-70 on that. Yeah, minute 48.364, so not the greatest, but it's something. Something to come as the thing goes. Now, in terms of events, I'm just gonna say there's probably technically nothing you can technically do with this. I hate to say, because you can't stick a turbo, and they don't have an event dedicated for superchargers. Why is there no event with superchargers yet? As the thing goes. You could do the World Touring Car 600 a little bit, but I'm just gonna say it's not the greatest. Matter of fact, I can go look and check see if you do Clubman Cup. No, you can't even do that. So yeah, I'm sorry to say there's technically not much you can really do with the Dodge Viper Gr.4. That's a disappointing part. Unless you tune it up higher for 200 mph case or something. But yeah, otherwise there's technically just not much of an offering when it comes to the Viper Gr.4. And that's the biggest disappointment part about this at the end there. Yeah, because I don't think, yeah, there's like no tournaments or nothing I can think of. So yeah, on to the race then, in this case. So now on to the race at Laguna Seca here. Since the Volkswagen Scirocco did Iger Dorblin and the Honda M1 RS did the Tokyo Express, so I might as well do the Viper for this track, as thing goes. Because yeah, in case you want to know the order when it comes to vehicles, I do, well, since for this one's case, I'm going to be doing European first, then Japan, and then America. And then it's going to keep back and forth until I get the 20 cars I need at the end of the day. And then the 20th car I'm going to be driving at the end of the day. But yeah, I will say there's going to be something in the future once I get there, but for now, I'm just going to take it as it is. And I've been thinking long and hard about if I want to, what's the best way to say it? Do 2 tryouts at once. I decided to not do that. Instead, I'll just do a double take of tryouts at the end of it anymore. I've been thinking a lot, because I might as well just get one done out of the way, then do the other thing in the future, and then on to the next tryouts and such. Because I might as well just boil it down at the end of the day. Because I gotta admit, I think I was causing a not good complexity. Oh god, not a good complexity at the end of the day. Now, in case you want to know these opponents here, I will say for Laguna Seca, these are my future candidates for the sports series, the 186 mph sports series in the future here. And these are basically all my candidates here at the end of the day. Considering you got some DTMs, you got the 90 sports cars, you got your Legends, that is the Renault RS Turbo and that such, all modified and made in mind for 186 mph. Even the Suzuki Swift 2007, which I'm not gonna lie, that feels like that one should be a bit lower. And you'll see why here eventually. But for now, this is basically my sports cars in the future here, because yeah, it's the saying goes, you can't do a random race with the Gr.4, or otherwise you deal with some Gr.4 cars that aren't what's the best way to say it? Aren't by your pace the same. I'll just say that much. They're gonna be way faster than you are at the end of it. So instead, I just decided to make a custom layout of cars that the Gr.4 cars will have to deal with, which in this case, the sports cars. But yeah, this sports cars is technically still in a work in progress, but I think it's pretty much fleshed out of what cars to be for this in the future here and such. But yeah, I got some special ones here, considering the Giulia Sprint there. That's not a normal Giulia Sprint, I'll tell you that much. Because the Giulia Sprint's motor was not good enough, so instead I slapped the Honda K motor in it at the end of the day. You also got the BMW M3 Sport Evo, which if you want to know the difference between the Sport Evo to the regular of that year and generation, is that the Sport Evo is a bit more tuned in the motor and a bit more tuned in the suspension stuff. That's really about it. Then we got the Peugeot 205 GTI, 1988 I believe. I decided to give it a Sega Genesis rad kind of style. And then we got this crazy bunhole that is a Abar 500, and we'll talk more about that once we get there when it comes to that car. Then we got Focus ST in a really old style I still have on this car to this day, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna be changing that sometime soon. Then we got the Silvia Q S13, which I'm trying to figure out what style to give it, because I don't want to give it the race decal my Gran Turismo 2 remix of the Silvia decal I did. I want to give it something different instead for that one. And then we got the Jaguar E-Type Coupe, looking fabulous as always with the big old crazy wing. It needs air in the back, so you know. Because yeah, you really can't do much of that in terms of air in the max and stuff. We got the Ford Sierra RS, classic DTM, and probably the most powerful DTM possible There's a reason why they axe turbos at the end of the day, and it kind of shows, I'm not gonna lie. You got the Miata Unos Roadster, classic, and probably the best sports car you could ever drive, basically. Then, speaking of the classic of sports cars, and kind of just the bringer of sports cars, which is the Corvette C1. 1958 right there, I think it says. Yeah, very much a classic. Then you got the Mazda 3, the Civic F. You got the Civic F Series, which is the Civic Si Extra, and then you got the Sprinter Truno. Cause yeah, I gotta bring that or classic 90s. Cause I was going through do a four-way between the Miata, Corolla, or in this case Sprinter Truno, the Civic F, which technically I should probably do the egg, but I want to throw the F somewhere, so you know. I might put the F back and put the egg up forward. Like the F be a pedestrian one perhaps, but I'll see to that if I have to, because I know there's gonna be cars I'm gonna have to change for the pedestrian case too as well. Just trying to figure out that matter. So, but yeah, that's so far what I kind of just think. Oh yeah, and the Mitsubishi FTO, which as you can see, he's not doing the greatest. As it goes, so yeah, now hitting like 7th place right now at the Viper Gr.4. But yeah, you wouldn't think this be competitive to the 186 mile per hour to 155. It kind of is on the most part, because reminder that the Gr.4s, if there's one big specialty they have higher fuel tanks, and they are designed solely for this, where these are technically not designed for this. So there is a case where a race car could still be a road car at a much lower speed. It's just the aerodynamics that takes them there and the race tuned stuff. And this kind of just proves that at the end of it. I will note that these are AIs though, so as the saying goes, if a human person was so happen to drive the sports cars, it'd probably be a lot faster than what I present here. Or what they're presenting here, I should say. So yeah, there's a lot of funny things to say about that at the end. Yeah, I got the Julia Sprint and the Honda K motor, which yeah, I guess I love that. Now that's how you use the Honda K motor, not freaking FF ones they keep doing. Those are all garbage to me. I hate to say that, but I'm gonna be honest though. And then you got the Subaru BRZ S 2015, which is not bad car. Very mellow at the end of the day. It's not really the craziest, but it's there. And then you got the Mercedes 190E, which yeah, that thing goes DTM, so you know, gotta have that too. But yeah, it's also another car you can have a turbo with. They betrayed, as thing goes. Even though I don't think they ever used a turbo in DTM because it certainly got locked out at the end of the day, so you know. But I think if there was a choice, they were probably gonna do it. And considering you can fit one, so you know. The only one you can't fit a turbo is the BMW, which the BMW is definitely going to get detriment about that at the end of it. Yeah, if there was an option to be able to take the turbo off, that would have to be a cool option to do too, because you always kind of wonder to do a NA spec kind of race or some sort, you know, and such. So that would have been kind of cool to do. And considering most of the pedestrian versions, like example, you have the FTO there with the version R and stuff. There is the lesser versions that don't have the turbo at the end of the day, or like the Honda Integra Type R, which has a turbo and stuff. The GSR doesn't have a turbo. I don't think, for the most part. But yeah, from what I know of, there's an understanding of that too. And you know, you kind of wonder, is the NA better than the turbo or not? As it turns out, you know. Which, by the long run, it technically would be, because I think, if I recall, NAs do not burn through as crazy much fuel as a turbo one would. And considering, I mean, turbo's getting picked out for pollution cases lately. Considering all manufacturers have lately been doing turbo productions and stuff. Considering the Unos Roadster also has a turbo too. That's just gonna be the most common thing and the most common enemy to deal with. But at the end of the day, it looks like Turbo gives more pace at the end of the day. That's the trade-off you're gonna get in return. Yeah, got the Julia Sprint going in. Oh, Julia Sprint going in. Cause yeah, that's cause yeah, welcome to the trade-off of the Honda K motor. It burns. It burns. Oh, the thing goes. Yeah, we're in the 9 times burn fuel with 12 times burn tires because yeah, I want to keep it to the low factors when it comes to 155. So these cars are definitely going to suffer in the long runs. Because yeah, that's the other thing too, and the saving grace probably for this race at the end of the day is that they're going to be burning a lot quicker than I am in terms of resources. From the tires being a bit more burned, as you can see there in the fronts of the Sprinter Trinos, and even though I say Lucio now, I still think the Viper still kind of burns more, and the fuel for sure is going to burn a bit more as a trade. Yeah, by pace they're quicker, but by longevity they're worser. They're worse on that. But yeah, and then here's the AI driving the new FTO in terms of updates, which I'm not gonna lie, he drives like ass. I kind of hate the AI who drives the FTO. Cause yeah, I will say there's some AIs you can just hand pick sometimes in terms of which ones are just terrible, and considering the Aber 500 is the other one. Yeah, I got the Corvette C1, 1998. But yeah, in terms, in case you want to know the lap spread I did for the Viper, basically once I hit to the 9th lap here, I'll go in. I will say the tires were almost bald by the time I got to the 9th lap there, and you'll see here. Yeah, here's the Chevrolet Corvette C1, which looking fabulous in the black color. Because yeah, I will say, when you get certain colors on cars, it will change the... Oh yeah, here comes that weird freaking moment. Oh my god. I forgot about that. So there is like a weird thing going on with the Aber 500, and I gotta guess they just never fixed it because there was a huge physics glitch when it came to Gran Turismo. I'm still thinking this one's still affected because just say I can never pull that during when I'm driving that. When the AI drives it, they do that, which I don't know why. But yeah, back then the physics engine was broken and you could do some weird things. Just like, and it's freaking hilarious of the instances you could do. But yeah, it's just very funny stuff there. Now I was going to refer to the Chevrolet Corvette C1. You probably noticed there it has a black, but I will say not all Chevrolet Corvette C1s have interior of that color. They usually can have a color of a different kind, which in this case this one has a black one. But, like, example, if you get a black C1 by stock means, it'll be in red for the interior. So yeah, when you buy the color, make sure you check the interior of what color you want with that car at the end of it. You never know when the interior color changes and such. As example, that DS3 is probably another one, if I recall. So it will do some very interesting changes, and those changes you might actually want at the end of it. Considering, I mean, look at the Renault RS Turbo, for example. That's another example one that can change the interior colors. Because if you get like a blue, I think it's like double blue. But if you get like, I guess maybe a red or green, whatever that one was beforehand. Because I will say I changed the color on that Renault, so could be a different color at the end of it. But yeah, there's just cases where the interior colors are completely changed, and not the boring ones like the Subaru BRC, for example. If you want to know a joke. You got the Mazda 3 here, which yeah, this might be another one I might change in the future. I'm not sure. I'm debating because yeah, the Mazda 3 is not really that great, and I'm probably gonna assume the Mazda CX-30 is not gonna be much better because that is technically a crossover at the end of the day. It's a hatchback, but it's also a crossover at the end of the day. A very weighed down, which is kind of funny because the crossover weighs less than that, by the way. So you would think, okay, that's definitely gonna be better than the Mazda 3, so I should probably technically do that one. I probably should have, not gonna lie. But it also didn't felt right either, because the Mazda 3 is supposed to be the faster one, you would think. but it doesn't turn out to be the case at the end of it. So that's funny instance there. Yep, so this is where I'm gonna pit right now, because yeah, this thing goes. Oh yeah, I will note I did a bit more time than I should for this, so we're gonna be skip at some point here, but not just yet, not just yet. I'm still gonna throw at least a bit of a challenge at the end of it, or throw the challenge parts, I should say. Cause yeah, while I'm pitting here, I know these guys are gonna be coming. So the Silvia Q, the Unos Roadster, and the Sierra. These are the 3 tough ones. Oh yeah, and the E-Type too. I want to count that one. You should count that one too, because that one's pretty good for. Because if there's one crazy thing about the Jaguar E-Type, its longevity is crazy. That's the one thing I noticed immediately when it came to that car. And then the Focus ST surprised me up here. I'm shocked about that. That's actually impressive, I'm not gonna lie. So that tells me that's going to be good in the future, because I will say, reminder that the fuel burn is going to be different when it comes to the sports, because the sports are going to be underneath the fuel burn of 6 instead of the 9. So that is definitely going to be different by pace standards. Because yeah, that's the one thing to understand when it comes to fuel pace. Like, while example, a Dodge Charger sucks for fuel burn in general, or like a 6 times fuel burn, it might be a whole lot better when it's in just a 1 times fuel burn. You know, the realistic fuel burn, apparently. So, something to take note on that. That was because I assume a Dodge Charger doesn't burn that ridiculously fast, does it? That would be really bad. And and especially for electric cars. Electric cars are doomed by this whole fuel burn thing. Matter of fact, I would have to make a whole special tournament just for that. Just to see if electric cars are better or not at the end of the day. Because the problem about electric cars is that they burn fuel like no tomorrow. There's like no chill about it. It just like suck it all right up at the end of it. Got the Jaguar E-Type and the Focus. Focus trying to pass the. And then me, I'm trying to have a battle with the Silvia. Like, yeah, my freak away. I know you're faster, but I can outmaneuver you. This funny instance there. This funny instance. There's gonna be another funny instance here in a bit too. But yeah, it's just funny stuff. So cute. Yeah, the Roadster being in front there. Yeah, being a little champ too. Cause yeah, like I said, if people judge the Miata harshly, you don't know the truth then. You just don't know the truth about that car, because the Miata is like a legend of sports cars. In terms of longevity's case, reliability's case, the simple horsepower it has, like only 120. Heck, I'm surprised there's not a 4-door version of it, or a coupe style. Because that car is just very impressive, and considering, just to say, by horsepower, that only has like 228, and it's still that good. Because it hits all the mid ranges just right. It hits the amount of acceleration it needs, hits the amount of speed it needs. It's just a very good little car at the end of it. And especially longevity means it's crazy good. As you can see there, in terms of the fuel burn. Because it was the last one in terms that pitted compared. Heck, it out-pitted the E-Type Coupe. That tells you something. Because I will say the E-Type Coupe is lesser acceleration than this car. Easily. Alright, we'll tell you. And then the Ford Sierra RS with the Ford Sierra RS straight up in the front though. Because yeah, but yeah, then the Miata messes up there. I was like, oh crap, I wonder what happened here. Yeah, I will say you can scare AI so eventually if you're, which I'm not really sure how to say to even scare them. They just so happen to do this sometimes. They will sometimes not brake efficiently enough and will ram into the wall or just plow right into it. It's a very funny case for that matter when you see that, but that is one of the first cases we see here in terms of tryout races so far, which I was hoping like one of these times it would happen, and guess what? It finally did. Yay! Sadly, for Miata though. As the thing goes. But yeah, it would be kind of cool if you were able to take the convertible top and put put it on too, because yeah, surprisingly when it comes to convertibles, you're not able to put the top on. Which in this case, I would put the top on, to be honest. I'm just surprised that's just not an option you can't do. Maybe something hopefully in the update, perhaps. Because I'm just very surprised you can't do that. That's like for the C1 Corvette. That'd be kind of cool if you're able to see the top for that too. Yeah, got the Suzuki Swift Sport. The Subaru BRZ, which yeah, surprisingly on par with the Suzuki Swift Sport. That's kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. Got the Focus ST sit in the back because of fuel burn, because yeah, that's the trade-off for the Focus ST, is that it kind of burns a lot. Biggest problem about hatchbacks a little bit, I will say that much. So yeah, hatchbacks are nice, you get a lot more acceleration, you get a lot more speed, but the trade-off is, hope you didn't want a lot of fuel efficiency at the end of it. Sedans are just going to be slightly better, or in this case, like the Miata being the sports car, a mid-light sports car. Can there be a mid-light hatchback? Yeah, it's just going to be very difficult. Definitely going to be a lot of scarcity in the parts. I'll just say that much. Yeah, now we got the Sierra going in finally, because yeah, that's the trade-off for the Sierra being so fast and accelerant and stuff, is that he's going to need his fuel eventually. Thus he gave in, as thing goes. However, I got two opponents here that are going to be a lot quicker now due to the fact I'm being in the front now, because I will say opponents will get quicker depending on what the amount of pace you're sitting in right now. Since I'm in first place, the Sylvia Q and the E-Type is technically going to be quicker now as a result. Yeah, I got the Mazda Unos Roadster to sit in the back. But yeah, speaking of brands, it's the Unos too, because that's another brand. Which is a very weird case, but yeah. Because yeah, during the RX-7 I mentioned about Anthony, Unos is taking another one. Because I had no idea what was Mazda's direction at that time, but it was very weird. Considering, reminder, there's also a K car in the future we're going to hopefully get in the future, because we're actually missing a third member when it comes to the famous K cars, or K Sports in this matter. Besides the Cappuccino and Honda Beat, there's a third one. And that third one is much rarer than those two, which is the AutoZam AZ1. And I think 2. If there was AZ2 or not, I'm not sure. But the AutoZam was basically a brand that eventually got bought out by Mazda because AutoZam went out of business during the process of making this K car. This K car was a very fast little K car, but the trade-off was production values and the fact they went with gold wing doors. As the saying goes. Yep, so now just basically just driving to victory at this point while I'm hopefully leading the charge at the end of it. Which is hilarious here, because then the Suzuki Swift stops the Sylvia Q. I was like, oh crap. that does happen sometimes, and now the E-Type's trying to steal for a second here. That's very funny stuff overall. Yeah, eventually I'll go ahead and just cut at some point. I'm not going to cut just yet. Because I want to get to that instance. I think it's this instance here. Recall. Yeah, here he is. Now, I will say I'm probably going to be scrolling around, but once I scroll back, you'll see the instance here. But that Peugeot 206 there, I'll just say that. What a little big old meeting, considering what just happened there. Yeah, I got the Mitsubishi FTO just chilling. I feel so bad, because I feel like he should be a lot faster than that, to be honest. But for some reason, he just ain't. He's just not. Just not it, Captain. Just not it. This thing goes. Got the Mazda 3 just sitting in the back. Yeah, I'm probably going to replace that with the RX-7 Savannah, perhaps. Because that was the other choice. I was thinking the RX-7 Savannah, because that's technically not a GT. That's more of a sports car than a GT. Or the other choice was the RX-8, which was also technically got the license ripped from the GT side, because it's more of a sports car. I consider the RX-8 more of a sports car than a GT, because of the simple fact they took the turbo out, which is technically fine because rotary turbos are pain in the ass, so I don't blame them for one thing. But it's just the problem is the engine's design was the bad part. And even if it's the newer Spirit R, it still had those flaws. It's the unfortunate part. Because yeah, I will say that even the RX-8, it's kind of weird case because we had the last of the new RX-8s, which is really weird. Such. But yeah, just looking at the opponents right now, to see where they're sitting at this point. As I see the Sprinter and RS Turbo. Yeah, both those are fueling already again, which they're probably not going to be fueling that much anyways, because they only need like enough for the 4 laps here at this point. 4 or 3 laps here. You know, red brick disc as the thing goes. Yeah, got the RS Turbo, got the Sierra. Yeah, the Sierra RS. Speaking of under gem DTMs, if it was a DTM, would be the Renault RS Turbo. That would be a funny case. Because I'm noticing it's kind of sitting on par with these other 3 DTM kind of cars. The only one that's kind of getting beaten by is the Sierra, if not surprised. But yeah, it'd be kind of funny if you saw the Renault RS being in the competition of that. Instead of turns of Renault DTM, it's the Laguna, if I recall, or that's BTCC, I'm not sure. Or ITC. It's one of the touring leagues. At the end of the day. Yeah, here's where it gets kind of funny here, because the Pojo 205 is just being a bit of a butt, I'll just say that much, because what's about to happen here? Goes in, takes the advance, and the next thing you know, brakes checks like several times here. Like, oh, I got the go ahead. Okay, so watch this here. And he just streams by. What a dick! And then I try to take around this court. Then he tries to slipstream by again. And then I try to take around this corner. And he's trying to slipstream by there, as you can see there in the rear mirror. For the camera, in this case. But then he goes in, so thus that technically just ends the race at this point. Okay, so now to recap here, basically overall here, it looks like the Jaguar E-Type's in second place so far. And well, yeah, I basically just got this in the bag at this point. It's a reminder that the E-Type's on the downhill side from the other side of the track. And I'm just going around the roundabout just now and stuff. You also got the Nissan Silvia Q in third place right now. I think he's trying to get to the E-Type at the end of the day. From what I'm noticing here from the little icon. Got the Ford Sierra RS 500. It's rolling 4th right now. Yeah, because as the saying goes, that fuel consumption is what kind of killed its pace at the end of the day a little bit. But it is there though. It's just not in the craziest right now. I think it's like is it right behind the Silvia? Am I correct? Yep, it's right there behind the Silvia, so it has a chance to take it, but I don't think it's happening there, Captain. Got the Miata Unos is in 5th right now, not bad. Not bad for pace, that's pretty good. Like that, it's a very phenomenal little machine, the Miatas are. Something what people do for body kits and stuff, it's kind of crazy, because then you can turn it into a miniature Aston Martin at the end of the day, which is very funny. Yeah, so now just racing the victory as basically wraps that at the end of the day. So I'm just watching the rest of the competitors here. Jaguar E-Type hitting the 2nd place right now, while the Silvia Q is right on its bun hole. As that goes. Got the Ford Sierra right behind as well. Got the Miata, which yeah, at this point I'm not even gonna count that because it's at the downhill, which is not it's too far at this point. So let's see if the Silvia tries to pass the Jaguar because it's like inching like bit by bit there, but it doesn't look like it, Captain. The Jaguar E-Type takes the finish in terms of the battle. So that basically wraps that for this 155 mile per hour tryout. Until then, folks, I'll see you guys next time. Until then, enjoy this little teaser of the Suzuki Cappuccino RX. little vassal machine. So until then, folks, see you guys all next time. You guys take care and ciao. Thanks for watching.